The shimmering display in the grand chamber of the Galactic Council showed unusual signal patterns that had caught everyone's attention. Director Taehyun stood tall, his silver uniform reflecting the soft blue light as he pointed to the anomalies. These signals come from the third planet of an uncharted solar system, he explained to the assembled council members. They show clear signs of artificial origin. Counselor Jisoo leaned forward, her eyes narrowing. Natural phenomena can often be mistaken for intelligent signals. Are we certain about this? Taehyun nodded to his aide Jaiwoo, who stepped forward with additional data. The patterns repeat with mathematical precision, counselors. They are undoubtedly created by a sentient species. After 3 hours of debate, the council reached a decision. They would send their best scout ship, the Horizon, to investigate this mysterious world called Earth. Captain Do Hyun received the mission briefing with a mixture of excitement and caution. His ship was the fastest in the fleet, designed for first contact scenarios. The crew of 20 specialists had trained together for years, but this would be their first actual discovery mission. Set course for the Sol system, Do Hyun ordered as he settled into the command chair. Standard approach protocol. We observe only. The journey took 16 days at maximum speed. When they arrived, the Horizon positioned itself behind Earth's moon, hidden from the planet's primitive detection systems. Science Officer Minji began her scans immediately. Her fingers danced across the control panel as data poured in. Captain, these readings are fascinating. The dominant species appears to be in early technological development. They've achieved limited space travel but haven't expanded beyond their own moon. Any weapons capabilities? Do Hyun asked. Primitive nuclear weapons. Nothing that could harm our vessel, Tactical Officer Sungo replied with a hint of dismissal. For 3 days, the crew observed Earth from their hiding place. They watched the humans' television broadcasts, intercepted their internet communications, and mapped their cities. Minji grew increasingly excited by what she saw. Captain, these humans are advancing at an incredible rate, she reported one morning. Look at this timeline. They went from basic flight to landing on their moon in less than 70 years. That's unprecedented in galactic records. Do Hyun studied the data. Interesting. But are they peaceful? Their history shows frequent conflicts, Sungo noted. They seem to thrive on competition. The youngest crew member, Ensign Juno, became particularly fascinated with humans. During his off-duty hours, he spent time studying their arts, music, and literature. He found their creativity remarkable. They imagine things that don't exist, he told Minji one day. They write stories about traveling to other worlds and meeting aliens. It's almost as if they're expecting us. As the days passed, Juno's fascination grew into obsession. He began to question the Council's strict non-interference policy. How can we just watch them? He asked during a crew meeting. They're struggling with climate issues, resource depletion. We could help them. Captain Do Hyun was firm. Our orders are clear. We observe only. First contact must follow proper protocols. But Juno couldn't let it go. One night, while most of the crew slept, he made a decision that would change everything. He took a small shuttle craft and disabled its tracking systems. I just want to meet them, he whispered to himself as he programmed the shuttle's course toward a remote human research station in Antarctica. The shuttle landed silently in the snow, half a kilometer from the human facility. Juno stepped out, breathing the Earth air through a filter mask. He walked slowly toward the lights of the station, carrying a universal translation device and a small gift, a crystal that glowed with its own inner light. Inside the research station, Dr. Hannah Park was reviewing climate data when the proximity alarms went off. The security monitor showed a figure approaching, clearly not human. Instead of panic, Hannah felt a strange calm. As a xenobiologist, she had dedicated her life to the possibility of extraterrestrial life. Now, it seemed, that life had found her. When Juno reached the door, he found it unlocked. Hannah stood there waiting, her heart pounding but her mind clear. Hello, she said simply. Juno activated his translator and replied, hello. I come in peace. Neither of them realized that this unauthorized first contact would set in motion events that would eventually lead to conflict. Back on the horizon, Captain Dohayan had just discovered Juno's absence, and was already sending an urgent message to the Galactic Council. The peaceful observation mission had just become a crisis. The emergency alarm blared throughout the horizon as Captain Dohayan stared at the empty shuttle bay. Ensign Juno had disappeared along with Shuttle 3. The tracking system showed nothing. Find him now, Dohayan ordered, his calm voice barely masking his fury. Officer Minji worked quickly at her station. Captain, I've detected the shuttle's heat signature. It's on the planet's surface near the southern pole. Dohayan's face paled. He made contact with the humans. The next 12 hours passed in chaos. The crew prepared a rescue mission, but it was too late. By the time they located Juno's shuttle, it was surrounded by human military vehicles. Worse, the shuttle's door was open, and parts of its engine had been removed. We have to extract him, suggested Sungo, the tactical officer. Dohayan shook his head. The protocols are clear. We cannot risk further exposure. We must report this breach to the Council immediately. 3 weeks later, senior diplomat Hyunwoo stood before the Galactic Council, his expression grim. The large chamber was filled with representatives from 200 spacefaring civilizations, all waiting to hear about the Earth situation. Counselors, I must report disturbing news, Hyunwoo began. The humans have not only captured our crew member but have begun to study his technology. Our monitoring shows they've already made significant progress in understanding the shuttle's propulsion system. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Director Taehyun leaned forward. How is this possible? Their technology is primitive. Hyunwoo displayed a series of images showing human scientists working on the shuttle parts. The humans possess an unusual capacity for reverse engineering. They don't need to understand the principles to make use of the technology. They experiment, adapt, and innovate at an alarming rate. He switched to a new image showing military vehicles surrounding the research facility. More concerning is that their military has taken control of the situation. They are clearly preparing for possible threats from space. Hyunwoo took a deep breath before delivering his recommendation. I suggest we immediately establish a quarantine zone around the Sol system. No further contact until we properly assess the risk these humans pose. Counselor Jisao laughed softly. You suggest we fear a species that has barely left their own moon? This is unnecessary alarm, Diplomat Hyunwoo. I have studied their history, Hyunwoo countered. These humans developed nuclear weapons during a war and immediately used them. They advance fastest when they feel threatened. Our presence will accelerate their military development. The council debated for hours. Most agreed with Jisoo that Hyunwoo's concerns were exaggerated. Only a few elder representatives showed support for caution. Finally, Director Taehyun spoke. We will not quarantine Earth. Instead, we will send a proper diplomatic mission. Admiral Sunghoon will lead the 7th Fleet to establish formal relations with Earth and guide them into the galactic community. Hyunwoo couldn't hide his dismay. A fleet? You're sending warships to a first contact? Not warships, Taehyun corrected. A show of strength to earn their respect. The fleet will remain peaceful unless provoked. After the meeting, Hyunwoo found himself walking beside Elder Counselor Kyung, one of the few who had supported his position. They will not listen, Kyung said quietly. They cannot imagine that a younger species could be dangerous. Hyunwoo nodded. I fear we are making a terrible mistake. Then document everything, Kyung advised. Someone must record what happens next. Meanwhile on Earth, Dr. Hannah Park worked frantically in her new laboratory, surrounded by military personnel. The gentle alien Juno had been taken away days ago, but his translator device remained with her. She had also managed to hide the crystal he had given her. General Miho paced behind her, impatient. How soon can we replicate their propulsion technology? It's not that simple, Hannah explained. This technology operates on principles we don't fully understand yet. The general frowned. Other teams are making progress with the communication systems. We need results, Doctor. Hannah looked up from her work. I'm not comfortable with how military-focused this has become. Juno came peacefully. We should be establishing diplomatic relations, not preparing for war. That's not your concern, General Miho said coldly. Our satellite systems have detected more alien ships behind the moon. Many more. We need to be ready. That night, Hannah sat alone in her quarters, holding the glowing crystal Juno had given her. She wondered if he was safe, and what would happen when more of his kind arrived. The military was already testing new weapons based on the alien technology. In orbit around Mars, Hyanwa's small research vessel maintained a discreet distance from Earth. He watched as humans rapidly adapted Juno's technology into their own systems. He carefully recorded everything, preparing the warning that no one wanted to hear. The Seventh Fleet was already on its way, unaware that they were heading toward a species far more dangerous than anyone in the Galactic Council could imagine. The massive ships of the Seventh Fleet emerged from hyperspace just beyond Earth's moon. 23 vessels of various sizes formed a perfect crescent formation, their sleek hulls gleaming in the sunlight. On the command deck of the flagship Celestial, Admiral Sunghoon watched Earth grow larger on the main viewscreen. Beautiful planet, he remarked. Primitive, but beautiful. Beside him, Diplomatic Officer Jin Woo adjusted his formal uniform. The humans will be impressed by our arrival. Such a display of technology should ensure their cooperation. The fleet moved forward in perfect unison, positioning themselves in Earth's orbit. Almost immediately, their sensors detected increased activity from the planet below. Military bases went on high alert. Weapon systems, primitive by galactic standards, were being activated worldwide. They seemed nervous, Tactical Officer Minsu observed with amusement. Those rocket weapons couldn't even dent our shields. Admiral Sunghoon nodded. Begin broadcast on all their communication channels. Let's introduce ourselves properly. Jinwoo stepped forward to deliver the carefully prepared message, People of Earth, we come from the Galactic Council, a union of advanced civilizations. We offer you protection and guidance as you join the broader community of spacefaring species. Your recent acquisition of advanced technology has brought you to our attention. We will help direct your development along beneficial paths. The humans' response came 12 hours later, after what appeared to be extensive deliberations among their world leaders. A silver-haired woman identified as the Secretary General of the United Nations appeared on screen. We welcome peaceful contact with your civilization, she said formally. However, we must insist that any relationship be based on mutual respect and equality. Earth does not require protection or guidance. We propose face-to-face negotiations on neutral ground. Admiral Sunghoon frowned at the response. They misunderstand their position. We are not here to negotiate. Their arrogance is surprising, Jinwoo agreed. Perhaps we should demonstrate our capabilities? Minsu studied his tactical display. Admiral, I'm detecting unusual movements among their satellites. Several have changed orbit in the past hour. Observation platforms, most likely, Sunghoon dismissed. Respond to the humans. Make our position clearer. They will join the Galactic Council under our terms, or face isolation. From his small research vessel hidden in Earth's shadow, Diplomat Hyunwoo watched the exchange with growing concern. His sensors showed activity the fleet was missing, small, stealthy craft moving between Earth and its moon, satellite movements that seemed deliberately designed to look innocent but were creating a web around the alien fleet. They're preparing something, Hyunwoo muttered to himself as he recorded everything. He sent another warning message to Admiral Sunghoon, the fifth one since the fleet had arrived. Like the others, it went unanswered. On Earth, Dr. Hannah Park stood in a vast underground facility, surrounded by engineers and military personnel. Before her was a prototype weapon that combined human missile technology with principles derived from Juno's shuttle. The shield disruption should work in theory, she explained to General Miho. But we've never tested it against their actual defenses. The general checked his watch. The Council of Nations has authorized defensive measures if the aliens don't withdraw by 0600 tomorrow. Your theory will be tested soon enough. Hannah felt sick. She had shared everything she learned from her brief contact with Juno, hoping for peaceful relations. Instead, her research had been weaponized. These visitors might still be peaceful. Their language is just different. More directive. They demand our submission, General Miho replied coldly. That's clear enough in any language. Aboard the Celestial, Admiral Sung-hoon was losing patience. 3 days of communication had yielded no progress. The humans remained defiant, insisting on equal standing. Enough diplomacy, he decided. Minsu, prepare to establish orbital control positions above their major cities. We'll deploy pacification fields over their government centers. Minsu worked at his console, then frowned. Admiral, those satellite movements I mentioned, they've continued. Almost 30% of Earth's satellites have adjusted their orbits during our talks. Are they threatening us? Jinwoo asked incredulously. Minsu laughed. With what? Their most advanced weapons are nuclear missiles. Our shields would absorb such primitive attacks without strain. Admiral Sung-hoon stood from his command chair. Begin deployment. Position our ships according to Plan 3. Once we control their capitals, they'll understand their proper place. As the ships of the 7th Fleet broke formation and began moving toward their designated positions, none of them noticed the small objects detaching from Earth's seemingly innocent satellites. Hundreds of them, falling into precise trajectories. On his monitor, Hyunwoo saw what the fleet did not. They've completely underestimated these humans, he whispered, watching the trap close around the most powerful fleet in the Galactic Council. The first attack was only minutes away. The Celestial glided silently into position above the city humans called New York. 16 other ships from the 7th Fleet had similarly positioned themselves over major capitals around the planet. Admiral Sung-hoon stood confidently on his command deck, watching the real-time images of the panicked humans below. Begin pacification field deployment in 2 minutes, he ordered. Target government buildings first. Tactical Officer Minsu's console suddenly flashed with warning signals. Admiral, multiple small objects approaching our ships. They appear to be coming from the satellites. Scan them, Sung-hoon commanded, unconcerned. Minimal metal content. No explosive signatures. No directed energy readings, Minsu reported. They pose no threat to our shields. The first wave of objects reached the fleet. Instead of impacting the shields as expected, they passed right through, their compositions carefully designed to exploit a frequency gap in the alien defense systems. Once inside, they attached to the hulls and released a specialized foam that expanded rapidly, covering sensor arrays and weapons ports. We're losing external sensors. Minsu shouted, his calm confidence evaporating. Something is blocking our systems. Before Sung-hoon could respond, a second wave hit. These carried a different payload, small devices that attached to the ship's hulls and began emitting precise frequencies that disrupted shield generators from the outside. Shields failing on decks 6 through 12, a crew member reported, panic in her voice. Sung-hoon grabbed the communication system. All ships, defensive positions. This is not a primitive attack. But it was too late for coordination. Each alien vessel found itself suddenly vulnerable as their sophisticated systems were hampered by surprisingly effective countermeasures. The humans had studied the technology from Juno's shuttle and developed specific weaknesses to exploit. On Earth, General Miho stood in the Global Defense Command Center, watching the battle unfold on massive screens. Dr. Hannah Park stood beside him, her face pale as she witnessed her research in action. Launch Phase 3, the General ordered. From hidden bases around the world, fighter craft rose into the sky. They weren't the traditional jets that the aliens had observed in their surveillance. These were hybrid machines, combining human ingenuity with reverse-engineered alien technology. They moved with surprising speed and agility, targeting the now vulnerable alien ships. Aboard the Celestial, Admiral Sung-hoon watched in disbelief as 3 smaller ships in his fleet exploded in quick succession. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "Their weapons shouldn't be able to penetrate our hulls." Min-soo worked frantically at his console. "They've adapted our own technology against us. These aren't simple missiles, they're creating targeted energy disruptions that weaken our hull integrity before impact." A violent explosion rocked the Celestial. Warning alarms blared throughout the ship. "Engine room hit," a crew member shouted. "We're losing power." Sung-hoon's mind raced as he tried to understand how the situation had deteriorated so quickly. "Order all ships to pull back and regroup beyond their moon." But the retreat order came too late for many vessels. The humans had clearly prepared for this conflict, developing unexpected strategies that the fleet's commanders had dismissed as impossible. From his observation position, diplomat Hyunwoo watched in horror as the mighty 7th Fleet was torn apart by what should have been an inferior opponent. Half the ships were already crippled or destroyed. He carefully recorded everything, knowing the council needed to understand exactly what had happened here. On the surface, Dr. Hannah Park watched the battle with mixed emotions. She had never wanted her research to cause such destruction. But when she'd been shown the aliens' communications and their dismissive attitude toward humanity, she had understood the threat they posed. "Their arrogance was their weakness," General Miho said, almost to himself. "They never considered that we could understand their technology so quickly." Hannah nodded sadly. "Juno told me their civilization develops technology slowly, perfecting each step over decades or centuries. They couldn't imagine our approach." In orbit, the remaining ships of the 7th Fleet struggled to retreat. The Celestial, heavily damaged but still operational, managed to break free from Earth's orbit. Admiral Sung-hoon stood amidst the smoking ruins of his command deck, watching as another cruiser exploded behind them. "We need to warn the Council," he said grimly. "These humans, they're unlike anything we've encountered before." As the surviving ships limped away from Earth, they left behind a changed world. Humanity had faced its first alien threat and emerged victorious, but at a cost. They now possessed advanced technology and the knowledge that they were not alone in the universe, and that the universe might be hostile. From his hidden vessel, Hyunwoo prepared to follow the retreating fleet. The Council needed to know everything, and needed to understand that Earth must never be approached again without the utmost caution. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council had never been so silent. 300 representatives from across the galaxy sat in stunned disbelief as they watched the final recordings from the 7th Fleet. The images showed proud warships breaking apart under human attacks, advanced technology failing against seemingly primitive weapons. At the center of the chamber stood diplomat Hyunwoo. He had spent the 6-week journey back to Council space preparing this presentation. Now he let the terrible images speak for themselves. Of the 23 ships sent to Earth, he said quietly when the recording ended, only 5 returned. Admiral Sung-hoon did not survive his injuries. Director Taehyun's hands trembled slightly. How could this happen? Their technology was centuries behind ours. That was our first mistake, Hyunwoo replied. We judged them by their apparent technological level, not by their capacity to learn and adapt. He activated another display showing human history. Look at their development timeline. From first flight to space travel, 60 years. From basic computing to artificial intelligence, 70 years. No other known species has evolved technology at this rate. Counselor Jisoo, who had dismissed Hyunwoo's warnings, couldn't meet his eyes. The humans had help, she argued weakly. They captured one of our shuttles. Yes, Hyunwoo agreed. And within weeks, they had not only understood our technology but improved upon it in ways we never considered. This is what makes them dangerous. He showed new images, the hybrid weapons humans had developed, combining alien technology with their own unique approaches. Their thinking is different, Hyunwoo explained. Were we perfect at technology before deployment, they rapidly prototype and improve through failure. Where we avoid risks, they embrace them. Where we seek elegant solutions, they find unexpected alternatives. Elder Counselor Kyung spoke up from her seat. What of the crew member they captured? Ensign Juno? A pained expression crossed Hyanwu's face. We detected no sign of him. Either he remains their prisoner, or... He didn't finish the sentence. Everyone understood. Director Taehyun stood slowly. What do you recommend, Diplomat Hyunwoo? A larger fleet? A different approach? Hyunwoo shook his head firmly. No. My recommendation is absolute. Quarantine the entire Sol system. No further contact. No exceptions. For 3 days, the Council debated this unprecedented recommendation. Many argued for a military response to avenge their losses. Others suggested more peaceful overtures. But Hyanwu's detailed analysis of human behavior gradually convinced even the most skeptical members. On the 4th day, they reached their decision. The Sol system is hereby designated a Class 1 interdiction zone, Director Taehyun announced formally. Warning beacons will be placed at all approach vectors. No vessels are permitted to enter this zone without express council permission. Hyunwoo felt a mix of relief and sadness. The decision was correct, but an opportunity for meaningful contact had been lost because of arrogance and underestimation. After the session ended, he was approached by Minji, the former science officer from the Horizon. She had been reassigned after the initial contact mission. Your warning report has been designated required education for all Space Academy students, she told him. They're calling it the Earth Lesson. Hyunwoo nodded. Perhaps something good will come from this tragedy after all. Meanwhile on Earth, celebrations of the victory were tempered by the sobering reality of what had occurred. Humanity now knew they were not alone in the universe, and that the universe might be hostile. In her laboratory, Dr. Hannah Park continued to study the alien technology, but her focus had changed. Rather than weapons, she now worked on defensive systems and faster-than-light travel. The crystal Juno had given her sat on her desk, still glowing softly. General Miho entered her lab, carrying a tablet with new orders. The United Council wants to establish a permanent defense grid around Earth. Your shield technology will be the foundation. Hannah looked up from her work. And what about reaching out? Trying to establish peaceful contact? Eventually, the general replied. But first we need to be able to protect ourselves. The next visitors might not retreat so easily. As they talked, neither was aware that far away, along the edge of the solar system, the first warning beacons were being placed by automated ships. The glowing red devices broadcast the same message in 200 languages. Danger, restricted zone. By order of the Galactic Council, all vessels are prohibited from entering the Sol system. The indigenous species is classified as extreme hazard. Approach at your own risk. Attached to each beacon was Hyanwu's full report, titled simply, Stay Away from Earth, a Cautionary Tale. In his private quarters on the return journey, Hyunwoo reviewed his final assessment. One passage stood out. The humans' greatest strength is not their technology or their numbers. It is their adaptability and their determination. Where most species see limitations, humans see challenges to overcome. Perhaps someday they will join the galactic community as equals. But that day will come on their terms, not ours. Until then, we would be wise to give them the space to develop, and to stay well out of their way.